JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Thursday, July 10th, 9:07 a.m. Talk really quick about the market. Some names I'm looking at go from there. S&P futures kind of flat, slightly in the red here this morning. Consolidating yesterday's gains, I guess you could say. Yesterday, chop, I guess would be the best word to describe. I wouldn't even call it chop, but we hit the highs and the lows by 11 o'clock and hit the lows at 11 and then just a slow melt to the upside, closing at 624 in the SPY. Not much in the way of headlines, right? It's the tariff letters went out. Oh my gosh, the love letters. Uh, Brazil 50% tariffs. We're going to do reciprocal tariffs unless I don't like what you're doing there, and then we'll just make the tariff based on that, right? So it's funny, but anyway, no jokes or whatever. Just so it seems like the market becomes somewhat immune to those headlines now, and then we'll see how all this stuff plays out. August 1st is the next big date. But and we're in a news vacuum today and tomorrow. We had the weekly jobless claims. Nothing crazy. They're actually 9,000 less than estimates, so nothing there. And then it's just going to open the door for more chatter around what the shadow Fed chair, right? I keep talking about it, but I just think there's going to be an announcement like this weekend or next week, and it's going to be a person, and that's who's going to be considered the Fed, the Fed chair for the time being. As funny as that sounds, but anyway, funny is what MarketWatch had this morning. I always look to MarketWatch. I always say like I read MarketWatch not just for comedic relief, but I mean there's good stuff there too, right? Don't want to dismiss it, but a lot of times when I click on that, there's always great headlines, and typically they correspond to the market sentiment, right? And right now, market's at all-time highs. Either they're going to have a huge flashing warning sign signal that this is the top, or they're going to have ones, oh, the market's going to head higher. And sure enough, JP Morgan note this morning or somewhere saying that there's another $500 billion wall of money that's going to hit the market in the second half of the year, right? So, and then they post this chart, and it's the cumulative net retail purchases by calendar year, first half, second half, right? So you take a look at the chart, and it's like, I guess you're supposed to extrapolate that number and say, wow, there's going to be more spending in the second half, and that's going to power the markets higher. But then if you make in that case, you go look in 2022 is the last time we had this amount of buying in the first half, and that was a big down year, right? So I don't know what correlation or any of that fun stuff. It was like yesterday, one of those Cheddar Cash, one of those FinTwit accounts with lots of followers posted a chart about the US dollar, and it's the x-axis says US dollar purchasing power, and then the other x-axis has the US debt. And then, of course, the chart is going to show that the U.S. dollar the purchasing power has gone down substantially, but there's no data point, right? It just says it's just like the purchasing power just on the chart. So it just all it does is like the confirmation bias, right? They're just confirming the bias that everybody has now that the U.S. dollar is crap, right? So, not saying that there hasn't been the dollar buys a heck of a lot less than it always does. And people always post those stories about 25-cent bread back in the 50s. I mean, it's just a function of how the world works, right? The population increases, the money supply increases, things go up in price. You make more money. I mean, the minimum wage was whatever, it was 5.25 a long time ago. Now it's 10 to 15. So everything's kind of like a function of that. So of course it's going to go up over time. But it's very easy to create that story that it's just getting destroyed and hyperinflation like the peso, just all right, rants for other days. I don't have time for that. But overall market 617 to 628 on the SPY. We'll love to see 628 into the end of the week, and then earnings pretty much kick up. Tuesday is the big day, right? The banks start. I think Netflix is Thursday. Yeah, it should be an interesting one. Last quarter was all about the tariffs. How many times are tariffs going to be put on there? I'm sure now that the expectations have been kind of like cut back a little bit. People concerned about inflation. Now it's going to be like inflationary concerns going to be back on the table. So will be an interesting earnings season, and hopefully set the stage for a nice move into September. All right, so that's overall market. Yields went down yesterday. Dollar was up slightly. Hopefully that trend continues. And now some individual names. JOBY up 6 sessions in a row. It's actually green here in the pre-market. I mean, it's like an aberration, right? It's not, or an anomaly, whatever you want to call it. But typically, JOBY has volatile swings, right? It'll go up 10% and it'll be down for 2 more days. And then it'll be back up and then down another day, big vice versa, right? Usually wild swings, and to see it up 6 days in a row and almost like there's like a floor in, like there's buyers ready to meet the sellers. That's like a good sign. I would love to see it continue to break out. At some point, again, I think there's going to be FOMO in regards to what's going on with Uber, Lyft, the robo taxis. People, I mean, looking for the next wave of innovation in the travel sectors, and it's just I just think it's going to come at some point. I don't know. And if you go back over the years, there's always sectors that really, I mean, obviously the AI, the quantum, the list goes on. You can go all the way back, right? To think that at some point this sector, I mean, has already, went on a rally, but I have to think this is going to go. Anyway, so still looking for other strikes. I'm waiting for CBOE to add September strikes, but I'll probably get the Octobers today if it holds green. And then Roku. Roku got another upgrade this morning. Yesterday it was Needham just raising the price target to 100. Today it was KeyBank upgrading to overweight from sector weight or sector perform, $115 price target. I don't know if that came out yesterday after the close because Roku was actually gapping in the after hours session after the close yesterday. It was over $90 and overnight. So I'm sure that note hit yesterday afternoon, and that's kind of some of the reason why it was higher. But here it is at $91. I keep saying I was going to add the August strikes over 90. I wish that happened during market hours, but probably the game plan here today is I'm going to lock some more of my 95s in, depending on what those look like, and then use that to go and get some August strikes. And again, the August strikes I'm going to get are for premium build into earnings. Of course, I would love it to have a beat and raise in a stock trade 125, 130. But if I'm going to hold calls into earnings, I'm going to want to have freebies just because of past experience with Roku where there's been opportunities to play premium build and I didn't, and then I held the calls into earnings. So that's kind of the plan there. And then I still have plenty of time on my July 100s as well, so I'll continue to hold those. VKTX disappointing, similar to, well, not similar to Roku, but I still have the July strikes, which I have some time here. Hopefully, this is the start of something. Close over $30, 2 days in a row. It did rally at the open and then give some of the gains back, but still closed in the green. That is going to be at some point at the end of the month or the start of August. That's my opinion. So that'll probably be the moment where I kind of take the stock. Either I take it off the watch list or I make lots of money on the calls and then roll some up. So that's kind of the game plan there. Not going to change that. And then other names I'm looking at, obviously, Lemonade's been struggling this week, but you look at the candles, Doji candles, another Doji candle yesterday. It's like a ticking time bomb, right? Because the longer it stays at these levels, and the high shortage, just like it's the ingredients that at some point is going to be a large upside move or another one, right? It's already had a couple. So that's why I'll continue to look for that one. Still have some calls for this week. At some point, I'll look to add some into next week, possibly tomorrow. PayPal and Apple disappointing after Monday, right? Apple all the way up to 216 on Monday and then hasn't been able to find its footing. And then PayPal looked great on Monday, all the way up to the 200-day moving average, just couldn't break it at 76.89, and then boom. It's been red ever since. Still holding the freebies with profits on the PayPal strikes. If it gets back over the 200-day moving average, maybe I'll add some more. But I keep talking about like mental energy. I don't like to waste a lot of energy on one name that's not moving much, especially when it's just all it's doing is erode in premium. So might be one that I kind of put on the side and then revisit at some point. And then the other name. So the small biotech space, which has been kind of on a tear. I don't know if it's some of it a function of people just finding under, names that have been punished. But you take a look at Edit and TERN, Corbis. There's a couple of these small cap bio names that trade at or below cash, or a little bit above cash, that probably have ways to go. You take a look at TERN. I think it's a $400 million market cap now. It's $323 million in cash. They say they have a runway on cash to at least 2028. They have a couple studies going on, 2 of them related to GLP-1. One's like a companion antagonist. I forget the exact meaning, but it could be taken in conjunction with some of these GLP-1s to help with the weight loss. Then there's another study they're doing, both phase 1. My thoughts on TERN. I've traded it on and off for the last couple of years. Don't be surprised I get some like $5 or $6 October strikes if it breaks this 200-day moving average at 480. I mean, it was over it yesterday. I just want to see it break it on some volume. And then the other one's Edit, right? So, I keep talking about Edit and watching. I had some lottos that expired in March. Those were the $2 strikes. Sure enough, it's up near, it was over $3 yesterday. I don't know what it is here in the pre-market. But another name, it's got like $240 million in cash, $280 million market cap. You had that Verb acquisition from, was it LLY? One of those companies acquired them in the genome space. It's just one of those stories. I used to like it back when it was $20, $30. I think it was all the way up 60, 70, $80 in the hype of all the things oncology related. You had Blue Bio, you had CRISPR, right? The gene editing names. So another name that I should say could catch fire. It was $1 back in April. Here it is up over 200%. But it's I was talking about yesterday too. These bio names, you look back, they were $1, and then 10, 15 years from now, they might be $200, $300 or acquired. I'm not saying that that's going to happen with either of these names. Corbis, another name, lots of cash, They have a different GLP-1 study, uh, and they also have a cancer drug too that there was positive data early. I think it was at the start of 2024. I have to go back and look at that one. It's another name. Don't be surprised if you see me add some calls and you're like, "What the heck are those names?" That's why I'm looking to get some strikes on them and more speculative in nature, because especially in the bio space, and you saw that acquisition with Verb. Who's to say there can't be some M&A? And if there is M&A, it doesn't even have to be the same company to see a sympathy move. So that's the premise there. Let's have a great day. I'll be back on audio later. Rock and roll.